Yeah. Last week we got up, so we talked about motivation. We talked about it, how we reflect on this precious human life, and then the certainty of death. So we went through that, and of course the importance of having a daily practice. And so now we're moving on from that to looking at the contemplations around suffering and its causes. So this is the first and second noble truth, right? So this is outlined in the Four Truths. Yeah, I think we said enough about motivations. I did mention last week the one from His Holiness Dalai Lama, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche's one from the Method to Transform a Suffering Life into Happiness, Including Enlightenment, which is what Rinpoche recommends as a daily practice that encapsulates the whole Lam Rim path to enlightenment, so that every day we're reflecting on that. Okay. All right, so then suffering and its causes. So as I said, we're talking about the Four Truths. So as the Buddha said, suffering is to be known in terms of identify what suffering is. And it seems a bit weird that we have to identify what suffering is when we go, I know what suffering is and I don't want any more of it, and that's why I'm here. Yeah. But so in the presentation from the Buddha's first teaching, so it's common to all schools of Buddhism, on the Four Noble Truths, which is a truth as in self-evident for an Arya being, who is a noble being, an Arya being who is a direct perceptual realization of emptiness. The rest of us get teachings. So, yeah. So the first, we say it's classified into 3, 6, or 8. And the first one, the suffering of suffering, all the pains that we have, all the loss and grief and bad news, we're very aware of. Even the animals, all animals are aware of. We see was it dogs being treated with some drug for depression? Yeah? I think that's for dogs, yeah. So recognizing that they are sentient beings. Sentient being is literally the word is having feeling. We say a sentient being is a being who has in the Buddhist context, has a mind, so that because they have mind, they have Buddha nature. Because they have Buddha nature, they have potential to be a Buddha. So anyway, so we all get that first level, suffering of suffering. Suffering of change is the things that we thought would bring us happiness that then seem to change into a source of suffering. I'm just rethinking of this one example, which was quite atrocious to me, and will be to you, of the couple in London who, obviously they were cause of each other's happiness. They got married, and then sometime later they fell apart, to the extent that the man killed his wife, chopped her up and ate her right up. It's pretty gross, right? Yeah, that's suffering. Especially for her. But of course his suffering will come lifetimes. She's what do you say, burning off some karma, being killed, karma to be killed, but he's going to suffer even more in future life. So we usually don't use such extreme examples. but you know, this is to be investigated, Buddha said, because we assume it's causing us happiness, and then we wonder why it's not, you know, why it's not going right, as we would say. It's supposed to be source of happiness. And then the pervasive suffering is that no matter where you're born in samsara, whether you're born in the plush suburbs, where you can get rich people's soil, but you can't steal anything, by the way. You see, the Venerable Gyalmo, she started the Tara Meditation Center originally, and then recently I think her house was up for sale, and she said, oh, you can get some soil from that because it's consecrated by the lamas. So it's apparently also on the hill in Bunbury, which is where the richer people live. Not that she was rich, but it has been consecrated, so we can have soil from consecrated places. So it happened to have some Bodhgaya or other places. So, okay, getting back to this. So, all pervasive suffering, wherever you're born, whether you're born in God realms, we know in human realms, we know about suffering. Nobody has to tell us about suffering. Even animals, nobody has to tell them about that. And then as you go down in the lower realms, it gets more and more intense suffering. So that's another thing that we look at, the suffering of being in an animal realm, in an animal body, suffering of being and the threats to animals, which we see on a daily basis, being preyed upon, being killed, being used as burdens, and being killed by humans, but killed by each other. They're killed by humans and so forth, eating each other. Different, like the shark, whale, and big mouthful of fish every morning for thousands and thousands. So when we think about killing sentient beings, there's a bit of perspective there. That's just one morning's breakfast. Okay, so, and then, you know, the predator realm, the hungry ghost realm, which can be analogous to what works for my mind, is thinking that constant craving, addiction. Like here we live in a desire realm, but when that goes out of control, we no longer have any control, and it's addiction, that constant craving but never satisfied. That's really what the hungry ghost realm is like, the predator realm. And there's a graphic description, and it's like all the razor blades in a long extended neck, and then oozing with pus. And then when you drink water, it's like pus. Should you actually get to the water before it dries up and cracks in the earth appear? So, you know, it's pretty intense. And then the hell realms, 16 of them. I think I should have, you know, at least when I was a Catholic girl, there was only one hell. 16 plus, because there's the 8 cold and the 8 hot, and the neighbouring hells. The neighbouring hells are a little bit less suffering than the hot and cold, which each level more and more intense suffering, to the point that, you know, as it says in the motivation for prostration to the 35 Buddhas, which is another thing that maybe we won't get to today, but we will get to. It says, even a tiny fire spark on the body of a being in the hottest hell, one tiny fire spark is hotter than all the fires of this world system. It's pretty intense. So just so we reflect on all of that, the sufferings of the different realms of existence, to get a sense of, I don't want that. So then if we look at the presentation on the 6 sufferings in samsara, So the first one is that suffering of change, that there's no certainty that in whatever happiness that we have in samsara, in other words, current existence, which is based on the senses, the pleasures arising from the senses, that they never last. They never last. Right? The suffering of dissatisfaction, this constant want more, want different, want new experiences. How many different, even like, how many different flavors of tea do we have now? I don't know, and nor do we. Let alone other, like, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, we've tasted every taste there is to have. And yet, oh no, but there's more. Ta-da. I mean, it's bizarre. When it's sort of like chocolate tea, I go, really? Anyway. Choose your own. So, yeah. The suffering of leaving the body again and again. So last week, talking about and contemplating death. So that process, we know, of leaving the body is not a pleasant one, unless you're a great yogi who's like, looks forward to death because they can do all their very subtle level of meditations. For the mere ordinary ones are, well, not ordinary, on the path, but not there yet. It's a suffering. It's a big suffering. And so this, and then the knowing that that happens again and again, lifetime to lifetime, if only we could remember it. And the suffering of joining with suffering again and again, or the rebirths. So, you know, of course, we know that suffering of a mother giving birth, it's sort of a joy and a pain, not having been a mother at the same time. But the suffering of being born, and as I like to say, that first, you know, cry of the baby is like, oh no, I've done it again. Here I am in samsara once again. How did I do that? No, truly, it's not that, but it's the shock of going from the nice wound out here in the external world. But so the suffering of rising and falling is said that, you know, going from doing well, say maybe in your job or having high status, to low. We see this in one lifetime, but really in the teachings, it's about going from higher realms to lower realms. So that, you know, even in the God realms, where towards the end of their very long lives, they're living, you know, nice, cushy, abundant, pleasurable life, such that everything's going well. So you don't think about anything like practicing Dharma because your life's going well. And then when all that comes crashing down and you've got no resources to deal with it, and then you end up in lower realms because you've frittered away all the good karma you collected to have that in God realm rebirth, you know. And it's always good to have the debate about, where do you want to be born? Do you want to be born in a God realm? Do you want to be born in a human realm? It's a good debate to have. Even better, reborn in a pure land. As the Dalai Lama says, keep doing your practice, and when the world comes to an end, you'll be in the pure land.
That's the way to be reborn without having parents, isn't it? Born from a lotus.
Yes, well, Guru Rinpoche born from the lotus born. Yeah. It's not about not wanting to have parents, though. I don't want to have parents. Yeah, work on that motivation.
That's part of the
You're destined for another. No, joking. And the suffering of loneliness. You know, we're born alone, we die alone, being without help. Yeah. So I think, you know, we, if nothing else, taught us that huge mental anguish and suffering. It was COVID, and seeing people who really suffered that sense of loneliness, which somehow most of Western Australia was free of, right? Maybe the loneliness of not reuniting with others outside of WA. Yeah. So, and then we have the 8 sufferings, just why not? And this, you know, if we think about the life of the Buddha and the Buddha being in that lap of luxury, like being in the God realm, and then leaving that existence by realizing how much suffering there was in the world and wanting to benefit beings. And so the first things he observed were the suffering of birth, of death, aging, sickness. And so they, you know, that comes as the package. I still say that being born is the single most 100% reason we die. The medical profession was coming up with different reasons for death, aren't they? Assault. Something else recently I read. No. Immortality rates. Well, of course, we've got to know. I'm not immortality rates. Mortality rates. Immortality rates is what we're looking for. What's the rate of immortality? That's what we're looking for. Suffering again of separation, being parted from that whatever we like. You know, whether it's a person and then they die or so forth. It might be someone close to you. It might be well, you know, when a bushfire or flood wrecks your house, you're being separated from the house, and that causes anguish. What else? Many things. Right? Many things. I used to have, before my uniform became robes, it was like when clothes would wear out, your favourite clothes wear out, and I'd be, but I love those, and it go into whole denial about they're not really wearing out, and then if you go for too long, you know, embarrassing wear out in public, and that's not a good look. Yeah.
I was wondering, is there a suffering that comes from suffering? Like somebody's trauma.
Yes, definitely. You know, PTSD, all the people in war situations and so forth, definitely there's that suffering. And that's why, you know, with the Dharma practice, of course, we're encouraged, not why, we're encouraged to use that to cultivate compassion, seeing the suffering of others, because we are, as human beings, you know, we want to help beings. But there's definitely like, you know, people who are involved in war situations. At least now it's being talked about. You know, before it was like you came back from war and you talked about it and suffered in silence. And yes, definitely. People who work in, I remember at the beginning of COVID, I was at Chen Resig Institute, and we put out I think on our website, it was sort of like an ask a monk or nun, you know, talk to a monk or nun. So I did get messages from AMBO drivers and saying, look, I've got to pacify people who are in fear, but I'm in fear myself. How do I deal with that? So that they want, you know, of course they want to help, but they had fear and anxiety. We didn't know a lot about COVID. We still don't. And so there was a lot of fear going around. And so it's like, how do I do my job? So those sorts of things coming up. So definitely the suffering of others. I mean, we just see, like, I think recently I saw a sort of mother gorilla whose baby had died, and they nursed him, you know, of course that's a very close, but her suffering, the suffering of her child's death was, you know, it's heart-wrenching. And then the male sits there, I think, facing the other way. I think it's to stop, just to allow that process of grieving. Allow processes of grieving. So there is the suffering of others. Oh, and I suppose that would be grieving as well, suffering of loss. But also, yeah, seeing others suffering can cause it suffering. I mean, even Chenrezig, Arya Chenrezig, right there, you've got the 1,000 arm there, had that moment of, really cultivating compassion for the welfare of all beings. And then that moment of seeing, oh, the suffering hasn't gone. And the tears came. And of course, Tara, green Tara, white Tara, and Tara's. Oh, help it. The suffering of encountering what you dislike. Cool. The summer heat that hasn't quite hit yet, but it has overest in intense heat. Yeah. We know it'll come. I mean, already I'm like holding my breath thinking about it. What else? Things that you're suffering of, what you dislike.
Unpleasant smells.
Unpleasant smells. Yes.
Rancid ghee.
Rancid ghee. That was yesterday. Out there in the protector room. Yes. Rancid ghee. So we're looking for things for here and getting some of the incense that we can to offer here. And there was this big tin, which unfortunately I took the lid off. I mean, the tin itself should have told me just take it straight to the bin. But once I took the lid off, I don't know how long it had been there.
And it had gotten into the thing that was, the tin was in as well, so we had to throw that away as well.
Yeah, in the basket or whatever it was that it was in. Let's wash it out. Let's not. Let's just throw it away. Yeah. So we don't want things to be. Hence our spring clean. Thank you, everybody involved. Yeah. Keep doing that on a regular basis, and guess what? Ta-da! We create more space as well. Yes. So rancid as well. Definitely on that. Anything that makes the stinky nose look stinky smell. Yeah. The suffering of not getting what you want. I was going to say not winning the lottery, but those of us with bodhisattva vows don't engage in lottery tickets, so it's gambling. Anyway, so not getting what you want, the job. I don't know about you. I had so many jobs interviews I went for when I was, in the day of needing an outside job. And it was a really hard decision. And you was just missed out. And you'd be like, okay, how do I pay the rent this week? Yeah, we can think of many objects of desire that we may be unattainable to us. I think everything in the food department's taken care of. Just think about it in Australia. Every food in the world available to us. And even some things masquerading as food. A lot of stuff masquerading as food. So don't worry about those objects of desire. There's plenty of that. But yeah, think about what are the things, how that triggers a suffering for us, and the suffering of the body in particular being in the nature of suffering, body and mind, but the body in particular, because that triggers, it triggers a lot of our attachment to our body, triggers a lot of mental anguish and very expensive treatments. Maybe not for us here. Okay, so we familiarize with that, as I said, and also the suffering of different realms of existence as a result of the fourth reminder. Our actions have consequences. So basically the teachings on karma, looking at long-term. So first thing is, do our actions, how do we know that our actions, virtuous or non-virtuous, have consequences? Virtuous or non-virtuous, doesn't have to be all bad. How do we know?
You see them come to fruition.
You see the results. Any specifics? There's a lot of hidden. There's a lot hidden. So, for example, I think, wow, what a wonderful thing to be here and involved in creating this, filling this statue, not having created it all. That will be on our altar. And it's a collective, actually, ripening of merit of everyone involved in the center, past, present, future. And so we can think that's a lot of positive energy, or we feel the experience when we come into the Gompa of it being a refuge, of it being a safe place, of it being a place of meditation, of it being a place of learning. And so all of the conditions that come together ripen for us collectively for that. But we see that it's also the result of all those who have engaged in practice and so forth here. So we can feel that experience. You can feel that when you go to pilgrimage sites, and it's just like blows your mind, it's so exquisite. Like the cave in Nepal, where Lama Rinpoche meditated for 8 years. And it's like so delicious. Like it's cool, it's refreshing, your mind's calm. You could stay there forever. But there's another group behind, and you've had your 15 minutes, so you've got to move on. That's true. That's what happens. So, this contemplation about that, what are the effects I want to, if we say yes to this, which indicates, of course, we're saying yes because we've had teachings on karma, we've reflected for ourselves, and then it's about, talking about daily practice, putting that, what effects do I want to create? What consequences do I want to create? So what am I going to do on a daily basis to create those? So here we're talking about both as a, what we might call Dharma practice, the prayers that I do, do my refuge, bodhicitta prayer, and whatever other formal practices we do, meditation and so forth, but also the vows of restraint and holding those so that they become our ground state, if you like, of our ethical behavior. So we have the one of refraining, as the Buddha said, do no harm, subdue your mind. That's it. 84,000 teachings. That's it. Do no harm, subdue your mind. And then on top of that, if you can, benefit others. So that includes the great Scott. So then we think, how am I practicing ethical restraint? Do the words just come out of my mouth, or that are regrettable, or do I actually think? Do I actually think, oh, that's not going to be beneficial, or what's going to be beneficial? Before it comes out, we can stop it, but before it becomes, strong in our mind, as soon as we can, as it says in the adversaries, vigilant the moment a delusion appears in my mind, that moment of desire that wants something. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, go into the shopping centre. Just observe, don't buy anything. Just observe where your desire goes. It's a good thing to do. Of course, the danger is that you'll actually follow this desire. I'm just here practicing. Yeah. Yeah, well, that didn't last too long. Okay. And so then, okay, so there's some, I'll go into more detail now about the Lam Rim, but then we, at the end of our practices, whatever we do, we dedicate that the effects, so at the end of the day, or even at the end of an action, because how do we know we're not going to die the next minute? So any time we engage in virtue, you know, we dedicate that to fulfilling our own aspirations, as we say, for my own enlightenment, but not just for me, to benefit others. So however we want to think, may all beings benefit from my virtuous actions. It's like yesterday, after we've been doing all of this, it's like, you know, just dedicate. When you're doing work in the garden, when you're volunteering here, when you're doing the online, whatever, dedicate all of that. And why? Because one moment of anger can destroy eons of that merit that we've accumulated, and that's the merit accumulated by our actions. So we have two accumulations of merit. One is wisdom, where we, you know, sort of really meditate to deepen our knowledge through analysis on the Lam Rim. That, if you think about it, you can't really lose that one. It can get covered over with a whole lot of rubbish, but you can't lose it. You've got that wisdom. Whatever aha moments, whatever realizations that you've had, is not going to go away. But what can be undone is the merit of all the virtue that you've created, all the good things you've done, said, all the ethical restraint of not doing harm and so forth. All of that you can lose like that. This is why we say the dedication is like sealing an envelope. Remember envelope? Putting the seal, so that it doesn't get lost. And so that continues to grow in our minds. So, you know, we have general verses for that, like, for example, well, what we do at the end of teaching. So we do these verses of dedication with a focused mind. So if we just go, as Rinpoche says, from the lip service, then we're not really sure that we're actually dedicating them. But if our mind's fully thinking of dedicating all that, so that the virtue in our mind and the compassion, bodhicitta in our mind continues to grow and grow, because this is what we're wanting to happen. I want to become a Buddha, and I want to be able to benefit others as much as I can. And then we have the one that is good to memorize from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, not from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, from Shantideva, Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So it's verses that have been compiled from that by the Dalai Lama. You'll see many different variations of this, and it's rather that chapter 10 is quite long in comparison to these verses. It's like a summary. So that's the one. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So now you have that in your notes. And it may not, oh, that's a bit long. It could be something that you might do like at the end of the day, after you've done your refuge, your prostrations, and any other practice that you do, and that you can close the day with, or that you can set at the beginning of the day or throughout the day. We have it in, like, for example, becomes when we take the 8 Mahayana precepts, this is included in that practice for as a dedication prayer. Okay, so just going back to the Lam Rim, Rinpoche's advice for daily practice. So Rinpoche says, you know, we've got those topics that we just looked at, which is not the comprehensive topics as we know. That's looking at the small scope. You can meditate for 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour or two, according to your situation, in 1, 2, 3, or 4 sessions a day. So this is in a retreat situation. So, for example, at the moment, Venerable Gyatso is leading the Lam Rim retreat in Daytong Lim on Kangaroo Island. I think that's at the moment. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Now, it's very soon.
Yeah, it's around about now. So that's right. School holidays have just started. Yeah, it'll be around now. So that's offered every year as the one at Chen Rezig Institute in January, 3rd to the 14th of January every year, no matter what day of the week. It's comes straight after the Budget Suffer retreat that's done for 5 days at the end of the year. Anyway, so those two are offered in Australia, and as probably aware, for discovering Buddhism, for the completion, or for the final module, which I think is number 14, final module, Rinpoche says to do a 2-week Lam Rim retreat minimum, and then of course some people do the whole month at Kopan. Happy for you. Get Tara on the job. Okay, so Rinpoche gives advice in a retreat setting, which also people can do at home. You know, we've got, fortunately, these Lam Rim. So even you say, well, I can't do that currently. Can't do that one. I can't do the one in January. I can't do the one in Kopan, or not yet, or whatever. Don't wait for that. So we have the Lam Rim. I don't know if you've seen this before. I didn't check if it was actually. I didn't check if it's offered freely online or if it's.
I'll have a quick squeeze.
Yeah. Okay. You have a look. Anyway, so. That's what I thought. Lama Zopa Wisdom Archives, and they also have it's called the Lam Rim Year Community, where you can join the community online. It doesn't really give you more than the fact that you're participating with others together, and that sense of commitment to others can really help us. But so for example, the topic of guru devotion, or relating to a spiritual teacher, is 49 days. So there's 49 days of readings on that. So you can see how important it is. The perfect human rebirth, 12 days. Impermanence and death, 26 days. Lower realms, 20 days. Only have to spend 20 days in the lower realms. And which, you know, think about when Lama Zopa Rinpoche was and Lama Yeshe were running the month-long course. I think Rinpoche spent 3 weeks on the lower realms. So hey, refuge 34 days, karma 38 days. Sufferings of samsara, evolution, and the 12 things. So basically, middle scope 73 days, and then the great scope 80 days. And then you have a day, 2 days of wrap up at the end of the year, maybe to do all your purification, all your purification. So, you know, each day is basically a page. You know, it's not some of them, and so even reading that day to day, you know, we have all these books of 365-day readings. 366 for a week. Just checking. Maybe that's where to wrap up this talk. I think, what happens in a leap year? You start again. Yeah, it doesn't have. So, yeah, so it's great just to have, and at least, you know, reading and whatever reflection, they have 3 points down the bottom of each page to reflect on for the day. But this can also become a structure for a retreat, for a year-long retreat. So that's quite a gift. And it also includes in here the foundation of all good qualities. So at the end is foundation of all good qualities, which is a whole summary of the whole Lam Rim. So having that one, you know, reciting that each day means that you've got the whole Lam Rim in your mind in the day. So Rinpoche goes on. So remember, Rinpoche said you can do daily for 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, according to your situation. Or you can do a retreat setting, 2, 3, 4 sessions a day. I really encourage you, when you can, to do as many as possible of those. With Guru devotion related to spiritual teacher, continue to do the meditation daily until you have gained the stable realization of seeing all the Buddhas spontaneously. So that's when you know you've got that one. Now, I'd never asked my friend who Lama Yeshe sent off, Lama Lundrup sent off to do 4-month Lam Rim retreat, and 4.5 years later, he had visa issues, said he didn't get past this topic. You can sort of see why. He was going in deep, very deep. Right? So this could be your lifetime practice, that one. And if that one is your lifetime practice, that would be amazing, because the root of all qualities is correct devotion to the Guru, as it says in Foundation for Quality. So that, you know, just putting yourself, you know, thinking, yeah, I'm going to be guided. If you think, oh, I don't usually have someone I would call a Guru or root Guru or so forth, Shakyamuni Buddha can't go wrong. Right? Complete devotion. And then Rinpoche talks about, okay, so in those topics we've been through, Rinpoche says to focus mainly on impermanence and death, which is the most important meditation, which helps you to gain the realization of all the others. So if you want to say what's the most important one to do, apart from Guru devotion, is that one. After you have realized realization where you don't even have the slightest interest in the happiness of this life. Ooh, that's a bit hard, but true. But it basically, in terms of not clinging at things, like enjoy them while they last, But if they're not there, it's, you know, not that suffering of separation. And seeking only the happiness of future lives, liberation or the happiness of others, which could take weeks, months, or years. Meditate on the intermediate path. So once you've got that, then go to the next scope. So we can see it takes a long time. But if we just do something foundational, we have the imprints on our mind, and maybe you've noticed already, more understanding comes, different perspectives comes, different examples in our lives. So even when we're not, so say, on the cushion, whether it's a couch or a bed or a floor or whatever it is, then when we're not there, but throughout the day, you know, just reflecting on impermanence and death, that we see a lot around that. Maybe we don't see the death so much, but we do. Just thinking of insects and things, we see a lot of death. And you know, reflecting on that on a daily basis, or reflecting on our, appreciating our human life on a daily basis, so that we just sort of meld our mind with whatever topic we're looking at throughout the day. And then, as Rinpoche says, reciting the Lamgrim prayer every day is fundamental daily practice. We're basically saying, if we're looking at setting up a daily practice, this is sort of like reciting Foundation of All Good Qualities is going to be the shortest one we get, 14 verses. Right. Easy to memorize that one. Of course, the translation changes from time to time. So that's okay. When you recite it mindfully from beginning to end of the recitation, becomes a direct meditation of the entire path to enlightenment. It leaves imprints or seeds of the realizations of the whole path on your mental continuum. This means with each recitation, you become closer to enlightenment. So if you think like that, oh, I'm reciting this, I'm getting closer to enlightenment. I'm reciting this, I'm doing this, I'm getting closer to enlightenment. And therefore closer to enlightening all sentient beings, which is the main purpose of being alive. Rinpoche has ways of convincing us. You know, Rinpoche says the more direct meditations on the whole Lamrim you do each day, the more advantages you receive. When you meditate on the Lamrim, bring to your meditation whatever teaching and other information you have learned from reading the authentic Buddhist texts. This makes your meditation much more effective. So say I'm meditating on a particular topic, I might, you know, this is when you've got time available, be reading about that. Maybe I'm reading Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, and I read that section, or read through the meditations and how to meditate, read Lama Zopa, the great treatise on the path to enlightenment. You know, read that section in volume 1.
If you wanted to read watching videos,
watching videos of teachings, yeah, because then you can actually even, well, you'll have to put things in your ears when you're driving. Yes, we are allowed to. I'm not saying I do it, but I'm not allowed to. I'm breaking the law. Okay, yeah, because or you can have it either in your ears or you know, you can have it obviously hands-free, playing on your device as you are commuting. You know, whether you're driving, whether you're on a bus, train, whatever. I mean, everyone has a doof thing going on, so we have it. You might have to put it up a little bit louder than it. Played in the house, and then all the beings in the house get blessed by that as well. So yeah, we can have that on our mind. Yeah. And during the break times, which means most of our day, in between sessions of sitting meditation, not breaks from Dharma practice, as Rinpoche said. It's not a break. There's no breaks in samsara, by the way. When we have a day off, we don't have a day off samsara. That's not to stress you. It's just a reminder. Whether you're standing, walking, sleeping, or doing anything else, try to live with the experience generated by your morning Lamrim meditation. That's a really nice thing to do, that, you know, to cultivate that more and more in your mind, reflect on that. On whichever topic. By doing so, not only do you make your life highly meaningful during your meditation session, but also during the rest of the time. Because the Lamrim experience, whatever experience in your meditation, in your reading, in your reflection, you know, makes your mind positive and has a fruitful result as a result of that. And so as a result of that, by setting our direction, say at the beginning of the day, then we're less likely to engage in non-virtue. We're more mindful of that. And then, you know, maybe also you have an experience of joy as a result of that. Particularly, say, you take something like meditating on the Guru Buddha, meditating on Shakyamuni Buddha as a daily practice, which is also advised to be a daily practice. And then if you do that every day, it starts to develop more and more associations, meanings for you. And it's quite a joyful, wonderful meditation to do. So put your mind in a very positive state. And of course, we want to keep that as long as we can throughout the day. So this is what specifically Lama Tsongkhapa said in the Foundation of All Qualities, saying, taking the essence of this precious human rebirth. That's it, day and night. So as much as we can. We may not be able to do it while we're asleep yet, but throughout the daytime and nighttime that we're awake. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, saying that we should live in the experience generated by our morning meditation, and strongly recommended we do so. So then even your working life or whatever you're doing becomes a meditation. So the whole day becomes a meditation practice. At least those moments when we're conscious of it being as such. But even when we're not, you know, and this is the importance of vows, word level of vows, because it's sort of there protecting our mind, reminding us to, I don't do that anymore, I don't do that anymore. So that power of restraint and having the vows on our mental continuum creates much positive energy just by the fact that the vows are there, whether we're conscious, whether we're asleep, whatever we're doing. So with our Dharma mind, putting our mind in a positive experience, then we're more able to be of benefit to others. If we're unsure, got anxiety, or, you know, let alone self-absorbed in everything that's going wrong for me in my life or the problems I'm facing, then we're not able to benefit others because we're caught up in our own sufferings, right? But if we can use those as opportunities to say, oh, well, I have this suffering. Yeah. Many people have this suffering, so using that to turn our minds around. And then Rinpoche says, oh no, that was, so that's from the reading that you have from Rinpoche's talking about a daily practice, advice for a daily practice. So it's part of that section there. Questions, comments? Success story?
Sounds like setting aside the time is so important.
Yeah.
Just 15 minutes
Yes.
or
yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just personally, traditionally it's hard to wake up in the morning and like get a clear mind to actually sit down or, you know, do a reading.
Yeah.
I guess it's just building up habit and
Yeah.
trying to get used
Yeah.
to it.
So the reason for first thing in the morning, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Something
Maybe
like that.
maybe after pipi and splash the water on your face and, like me, make a cup of tea. You know,
Don't let your blood sugars drop. It is important.
yeah, don't let your blood sugars drop. And then, you know, so you, when it says, I mean, I have so many things that say, do this first thing in the morning. And then you've got about a list of 10 things they have to do first thing, and which is first thing, you know. But I do, and by a force of habit, have a practice that I start with at the beginning of the day. It's just like automatic, my eyes open, and that's that one that I do, yeah, basically straight away. And then cup of tea. Yeah. Doesn't always actually. No, I'm not having a cup of tea first thing.
Oh my goodness.
It may not last. Don't worry.
Like it's setting the alarm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, so I didn't say the reason. The reason is that's when your mind is at its quiet. May not be, as you say, at its clearest, but it's at its quietest. So before we engage in other things in the day. And the other thing is, if we leave it too long, we might find, oh, I haven't started my morning practice yet, and I'm just about to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, that can happen, right? And it does. So at least we can say, you know, think about it in terms of, I'm using this to set my mind in a good space for today, and whatever, you know, I've got to face today. And then when you get opportunities, like for example, when I was working at the university and we were in the basement and the toilets were out this door, and it was sort of like, because we're in the basement, we're the only ones working in our area, we're the only ones who used it. And so that meant that became my meditation. I'd go in there because there'd never be anybody else there, and I think, oh well, this is my space to myself. Without going too far, right? You're not going, you know, to the chapel or whatever.
I found when I was starting a daily practice, I actually kept a notebook. So stuff about what I needed to do during the day, I would write that down and then try and come back to my practice. Rather than
If stuff that was on your mind, and you just write it down, don't worry. Yes. I don't know how many lists of things to do I've got on my phone.
Yeah, whatever system works for you, but so that you can try and focus on what you need to focus on now, but you're not going to forget, oh, that important thing that I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good to share tips like that and what works for you.
I think another one is, I don't know if any other people do this, but it's, I think, mindfulness. Well, when do you actually spend time on it?
Oh, that's a good one.
And then that's a good opportunity to replace it. In the morning, if you sit down and have your cup of coffee or cup of tea and you go, oh, I might start then scrolling, or even if you're on this, replace something that's less with
Mindfulness, yes, and just like, oh, yep.
Okay, this is not.
So then you use that as a trigger. Oh, time to practice.
I think I don't my
All of a sudden you go, yeah. Good tip. Yeah.
I've got to put that into practice.
But now you've shared it with everybody, you'll feel the responsibility. How's that going?
Say not reading a newspaper or something, reading a Dharma book.
Yeah.
You know, like in those idle moments.
Sure. Yes.
I strongly recommend fostering or
Oh, yeah.
you early in the morning
and less responsibility than adopt a child.
And if you doesn't, then you're like, oh, I'm already in my school.
Yes, they get you up early. Especially cats, right? They get you up really early.
They get you up in heaven, they feel fine. She said something like that.
Yeah. Well, we were just saying yesterday that somebody, oh yeah, at the puja, that the dogs that come and sit beside you. I used to have that. My dog would come and sit beside me when I sat to meditate. I don't know if she was sitting beside me because I was up and I was at doggy level. I think she's a small dog, maybe, but it worked. Yeah, so
I like this about the group and summer camp. That was interesting.
yes,
Like, in terms of that one, and then that
yeah.
gets some great.
Yeah, yeah. So like another way to think is just say, what have I already got routine in my day? Do I debate whether I'm going to brush my teeth? Well, actually, no. Certainly don't debate if I'm going to have a cup of tea. I mean, maybe occasionally I have that debate, but that could be my trigger. Yeah. Was that?
No,
That was just a moment.
It's people who find the daily thing a bit difficult, try and do something every month or every
No,
year
don't
or
delete.
something. No, that. But while they're establishing their daily, they're still like they're going on retreat every year.
Oh, okay, something like retreat. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant in lieu of daily practice.
No,
we're not going there. Whilst setting up or maintaining at least this much daily practice.
If they're feeling that their daily practice is enough.
Actually, retreats really do give that booster. They really do. They can, yes. I can see nods of agreement. Really consolidate things. And yeah, and it is true. The more, if that would be possible to do one every year, that would be fabulous. And we're so, as I say, we're so fortunate we've got those opportunities here in Australia where people have to travel. Well, we just have to travel in Australia, but not so far.
The morning ritual.
Yes.
Prayers. I personally find that I wake up and I'm thinking about good, and then I go to the garden. That's my first place of call. I'm opening up the door and walking around the garden and seeing what's happening in the garden. Within that, I'm reflecting on some of the things coming out, things finishing off, and then I'm feeding fish, and then I had a cup of tea, and I had sort of an hour of my own ritual, knowing that I'm going to go and sit, and then so I've incorporated, I have a ritual of my own, and then of the garden is a ritual as well. Then I incorporate, getting up and going straight to the room and then meditate. I can do that, but I like that little bit of time just to feel awake and prepare my mental state to go and sit. And,
yeah, and depending how awake you feel at that time, if you want to do some more mani padme hums for all the insects around it. Blow, blow, blow. I'm not saying add that and become stressful. I'm just saying that's a possibility, but maybe you'll do that later. That's okay. Yeah, no, look, we all have our morning rituals, so honor what works for you, and if that's working for you, don't change it.
I'm just learning about the afternoon of the evening.
Yeah.
Starting to incorporate the evening in the dedication of the day and the sealing and the prostration.
Wonderful.
Oh, nice. I do it like the comment on brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
So I take it as important as brushing your teeth before I step out of the house. So I usually do I brush my teeth, and then if I happen to wake up late and I forgo breakfast, brush my teeth, I'm going to jump out of the house.
So even brushing the teeth then actually becomes a practice. of, yeah, because of course we have mantra for that as well. We've got mantras for everyday practice. But it becomes part of, like, even though we weren't going to brush our teeth in the day, it becomes part of, you know, I can see that as a purification, preparing me for, if I'm then sitting down, you know, to practice, then that's part of, you know, cleansing. We have rituals about cleansing the mouth and so forth. And, yeah, offering the pure practice. Yeah, absolutely. Is there a term for, well, you're going in, I know we have, what's it called? Forest bathing, what they do in Japan. There must be a garden bathing.
Yeah.
He's doing his garden bathing.
I mean, Oscar was saying this thing he does, wake up and go down, and it's just, I mean,
So you're out there with Costa.
yeah, I don't know what's happened overnight. You know, but, during the day, I'm in there, or
Yeah.
I'm just wandering around.
Wonderful.
I'm looking and
Yeah.
Calm.
Yes. Good. Excellent.
But preparing mind before you practice, sometimes that does help as well, like listening to a particular piece of music or whatever. I mean, for beginners.
We'll talk more about this next week, about preparing before your practice. But yeah, it is good to share our tips and experiences, learn from each other. Right. So we must dedicate all of this so nothing of it gets lost, and that way it stays on your mental continuum forever. When you're in the bodhisattva grounds, and all of that just arises as realizations in your mental continuum, if not before. Okay, so page 16. Third verse down. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And then page 19, prayer for long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Page 23, long life prayer for Tenzin also. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice the sacred Gantan tradition, essence of Buddha's teachings. O foremost and holy Lama, to you are supreme. O Lama, please, please live long. And the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor, patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thank you, everybody. Sorry, we went a little bit over.